Daylight, my MVVs, welcome. Yes, so my very own Daylight, Queen Naomi's, $1 million royal leap. It is not a small thing, though. There are announcements, then there are declarations, and then there are moments like this, so grand, so thunderous, that they silence every other conversation in the room. What happened between Ooni of Ife and Queen Naomi in the past few days is not just news. It's history being rewritten in gold. Daylight, brace yourself, because this time, even the wives cried. Yes, royal tears flowed, not out of joy, but, from deep shock, heartbreak, and a sense of total, erasure, right? Now, it is not a small thing that has happened to Olori Naomi. That is why they say when God is with you, no matter how much they gather against you, God will always stand supreme in your life, okay? Now, let's begin with the origin of this storm that is brewing the palace right now and the Oloris. Now, yesterday I just gave you a snippet of what is going on. Today, you get a complete, commentary on what has happened, okay? They say far away in South America, a spiritual revolution has been building silently for years. The Yoruba traditional resonance movement in Brazil, Colombia, Uruguay, and part of Argentina has been uniting Yoruba descendants who were, carried across oceans centuries ago, okay? Now, from, there are Yorubas even in Candobile, okay, to Centaria, all they have Yoruba. These communities have been preserving Yoruba spirituality, culture, language, and royal protocols with fierce devotion. Now, after years of planning, fundraising, and building influence, this, powerful global Yoruba community finally stood up and said, we want to officially honor the Ooni of Ife as our global traditional father, and we want one of his queens to serve as the official face and mouthpiece of the Yoruba royalty in South America, okay? Now, they said a movement, backed by several Afro-Latin cultural foundations, global cultural funds, and most notably, a billion-dollar wellness and cultural enterprise known as Corona Royal became unstoppable. Now, what is Corona Royal, okay? It is not just a brand, it's a cultural empire, a fusion of beauty, wellness, African spirituality, and early traditional influence, with deep root in the Afro-Brazilian wellness community. Corona Royal is globally funded and supported by fashion houses, holistic medicine groups, traditional schools of Orisha worship, and even global streaming platform preparing to spotlight the African cultural rebirth, okay? Now, this is not a small contract. Daylight, this is, a billion-dollar initiative, one that will position its ambassador as the foremost female face of African royalty on the global stage. Daylight, this is what God is doing for Olori Naomi, okay? Now, naturally, the palace was buzzing, whisper turned into shout. Different royal wives began to push for their place. Entourages, started calling PR firms and queens, began quiet media campaign. One wife was said to have sent representatives to Brazil ahead of the announcement, believing she had the deal in the bag. And this wife, as we are hearing, they say it's a Borneo. But while all that was going on, the Ooni of Ife had already made up his mind, but nobody knew. He called in the inner royal council and said something that changed everything. The only woman who can carry the spiritual weight of this honor is the one who walked with grace, loved with truth, and bowed only to God and tradition. Her name is Naomi. And with that, Queen Naomi was chosen, okay? Yes, after all the noise, drama, expectations, and internal, palace politics, the Ooni went back to his heart. He went back to the only queen whose story has never been tainted. The only woman who left the palace with dignity, yet still carries more royal power than anyone else. The Ooni said, and I quote from what we are hearing, if the information is true, Queen Naomi is not just a queen. She is a priestess, a mother, a light. The ancestor honor her. The throne knows her, and the gods trust her voice. And with that, the Global Corona Royal Ambassadorial title was awarded. You know, they said they gave it to only Queen Naomi. And let's talk about what this deal means, okay? She is going to become the official royal ambassador of Yoruba tradition in South America. She will be the spiritual and cultural bridge between Yoruba land and the Afro-descendant communities across the Atlantic. She will be featured in global campaigns, cultural documentaries, royal, conferences and healing symposiums sponsored by world organizations. She will lead the Global Yoruba Womanhood Symposium, a new movement uniting spiritual women leaders across continents, okay? And above all, she becomes the symbol of Yoruba African womanhood and purity in the eyes of the world. Do you know what that would mean for Olori Naomi? Now, can you imagine the magnitude? And while all this glory was being poured into Naomi's head, what happened in the palace? Della right, it was not a small tears, okay? They say wives cried. One refused to come out for her scheduled palace activity. Another was said to have approached senior royal chief asking if the Ooni of Ife could reconsider. But you see, this honor was spiritual. It wasn't about who stayed longer, who smiled more, or who posted more. It was about who carried the weight of tradition and heaven's approval, okay? Queen Naomi, even in her quietness, her distance, her non-political life, still shines brighter than the rest. She is the only woman whose departure from the palace didn't reduce her value. It increased it. She is the only one the Yoruba people still refer to as Ayaba Tuto, okay? This Ayaba Tuto, this is how it is spelled, okay? Ayaba, you all know, but Tuto is T-O-O-T-O. I don't know what that means, the true queen, okay? So now, from Brazil to Nigeria, from, Bahar to Osogbo, from Ife to Cartagena, her name is now a banner of royalty. That is what is going to begin to happen between the third quarter and the end of the year. This is not just a deal. It's not just fame. It's not even just honor. This is divine vindication, okay? Now, it's a message to the world that Queen Naomi remains the crown jewel of the Ooni of Ife's heart. That is the truth, whether people like it or not, okay? Now, Della right, this is because when the Ooni of Ife made his choice, he didn't just choose a queen, he chose a legacy. And that legacy is now echoing across continents. The moment Queen Naomi's appointment was made public, international Yoruba group erupted in celebration. Okay, in Salvador, as we are hearing, Baja, the largest Yoruba descendant population outside of Nigeria, priests and priestesses held vigil in her honor. Okay, traditional Yoruba drum beat in the street. Okay, offering, offering we are placed at sacred altars, okay? So right now, this is still like brewing, like cooking underneath. But in the next maybe 1 month or 2 months after the Omualabi's day, we are going to hear all of this. They were not just celebrating a deal, they were welcoming a mother, a custodian, a queen, okay? In Brazil, one of the high-ranking Afro-Brazilian traditional chiefs said, we did not just receive like a woman, okay? We received the light. Queen Naomi is the fulfillment of a prophecy, a return of the royal woman who carries both purity and power. Now, Della, let that sink in. While others were chasing position, Queen Naomi was being revealed, not by media, not by gossip, but by divine appointment, and the world has finally caught up. Okay, let's talk about, what this means for the global Yoruba throne moving forward. For centuries, the position of the royal wife was seen through the lens of proximity, tradition, okay, or simply ceremonial presence. But Queen Naomi has changed the game entirely. She's turned it from symbolism into spiritual leadership. She's not standing beside the crown. She's wearing the respect of the ancestor. Her new role under the Corona Royal Initiative include hosting the Yoruba Women Royal Summit in Salvador, bringing together Yoruba women from over 30 countries to, revive ancient feminine, wisdom, leading Afro spiritual spiritual healing retreat where Orisha practitioners, herbalists, and diviners will gather under her guidance. Now, it's important for you to understand that Queen Naomi also is a diviner, but she is a diviner for Jesus, okay? Now, the word of God says that, you know, God is the leader of all, you know, everything, you know, spirituality comes from God, okay? Now, I will not be wrong if I call Queen Naomi a diviner. Yes, because she is a diviner for Christ. She sees, she speaks in tongues, she heals. God has given Queen Naomi the spirit of healing and all of that, okay? Now, leading Afro spiritual healing retreat where Orisha practitioners, herbalists, and diviners will gather, including Christian diviners, okay? Now, launching a global scholarship fund for young, you know, Yoruba girls interested in cultural preservation, medicine, and storytelling. And Netflix-backed documentary series titled The Queen from the Throne of Orun, that is O-R-U-N, tracing Queen Naomi's spiritual journey from prophetess to palace to global, you know, priestess. Okay, these are not plans, these are contracts already. They said they have signed this contract. The entire palace structure has shifted where one wife's, you know, one's wife's competed for attention. Now they simply watch as Queen Naomi ascend to a dimension none of them can reach. The Ooni, for his part, has said, you know, little publicly, but sources close to the inner council say he has given strict royal instruction. Now, you do know that there's this thing with Ooni of Ife and Queen Naomi going public right now until their rituals are over. I am hoping and I know that by the time all of this ritual and everything is over, all of this will go boom on social media. It will be one of, you know, the trends making round on social media. The whole social media will go agog, like it will abuse with this news. This is what we are hearing. Dela writes, we will continue to celebrate Queen Naomi. Queen Naomi is of God, and God will continue to bless that woman. I'm going to bring you update. You remember that yesterday I couldn't give you enough update. I told you that today we will go into this. I'm giving you the complete update of what has happened. But however, do not forget that these are all alleged, rumored, unverified information making the rounds on social media and should not be seen as fact.